Welcome back to the Home Lab, and I'm going to take you today to warmer and sunnier climes. What we're going to do is we're going to have a look at the weird and wonderful goings on at the Bermuda Triangle. It's a well-known urban myth that large numbers of ships and aircraft have mysteriously disappeared in a region around the islands of Bermuda called the Bermuda Triangle. Well, it may be true, it may be false, but it makes for a great story. So what I'm going to do today is try and explain with this children's fish tank toy what's really going on in the Bermuda Triangle. When I was at school, I used to take a magazine called The Unexplained. You might remember it. And it used to feature weird and wonderful articles about strange goings-on, such as UFOs and ghosts. But from time to time, there were stories about aircraft that mysteriously disappeared and ships that just went with no trace whatsoever. And this was all in a region of the world called the Bermuda Triangle. So what I'm going to do today is a tongue-in-cheek explanation of what I think's going on there.
Actually stopped swimming, but now he is. Now he's stuck.
Bermuda is a British overseas territory in the North Atlantic. It's approximately 1,000 kilometres east of North Carolina, and it's a collection of over 180 islands. To make you feel at home, there are Cambridge beaches, Southampton and Warwick parishes, and Somerset Village, though I'm not sure if that wasn't named after Sir George Somers. Driving is on the left as in the UK, but tourists are not allowed to drive cars anyway. The rather unfairly named Bermuda Triangle is a triangular section of the North Atlantic with vertices at Florida, Puerto Rico and Bermuda. So to get us started, I'm taking my son's little fish tank toy, and I've got two little ships here, and I'm going to load them up with a little bit of cargo. And what we're going to do is we're going to place them in the ocean up here, somewhere near Bermuda. So in go the little ships. Let's see if I can get them floating. There's one. And there's another one. Okay, and it's calm seas and they're floating quite happily on the top of the surface. But what we'll do next is we'll see if we can create the circumstances that might be causing the ship losses in the Bermuda Triangle. So now we've got the ships floating near Bermuda, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create some bubbles in the tank. And this is going to represent one of the theories that suggests how shipping is lost in the Bermuda Triangle. That bubbles of methane hydrides, the sort of natural gas, is bubbling up from the ocean surface, and those bubbles are causing ships to sink. So in goes my bubble hose. There we go. And let's now blow some bubbles and see what happens to our shipping. So both of our ships sank immediately, and they're now sitting stranded at the bottom of the ocean, captured by the mysterious goings-on of the Bermuda Triangle. Or is it just bubbles of gas coming up from the ocean surface? So let's see if we can explain what was going on there. So our two ships are now at the bottom of the ocean with their cargo, sharing the space with the divers, fish and sharks that are down there. So let me try and explain what happened there. So a couple of things. One of them is fairly obvious. As the bubble went up, it disturbed the surface of the water, and if the ships are quite heavily laden and are quite deep into the water, it only takes a huge wave to come over them and they get flooded and they'll sink. And you might remember that Bermuda is famous for some quite serious weather at some times of the year. But there's a second explanation that we need to look at, that when the bubbles come up from the surface of the sea, these gas bubbles, if you think about it, gas is 2,000 times less dense than water. So a ship to float, even if it's made of thick steel plates full of cargo, the ship itself overall, it's kind of a Brunel idea, has to be less dense than the water it's in. And if it's less dense, it'll float a little bit. Think about an iceberg, slightly less dense than the water it's in, so it floats with just a little bit showing out above the surface. Now, if a bubble of gas forms underneath the ship, then it's in a gas that's 2,000 times less dense than the water it's in. So the ship loses its buoyant upthrust force and down it goes, gets flooded, and it ends up stuck on the bottom of the ocean. So the bubbles act as a density reducer that will cause the ships to sink. The truth is, there doesn't seem to be any statistical data that bears out the fact that there's been a greater loss of shipping and aircraft in the Bermuda area. Also, the idea of methane hydrates, that sort of natural gas bubbling up from the seabed, is probably not true either, because there hasn't been any activity on the seabed there for thousands of years. That aside, it makes for a fantastic story, and I think it's an urban legend that isn't going away anytime soon. So I do hope you enjoyed that video and rather tongue-in-cheek look at what's going on in the mysterious area of the Bermuda Triangle. I will of course be making another video soon, but before this one ends, always stay to the end, because sometimes I cut in some extra little bits of film that I haven't used, and I always put some links to interesting videos right at the end. Anyway, I'll be making another video soon, and I do hope you'll join me then.